Chapter 480 to 481. After a while of chasing and fleeing, the two quickly arrived at the other battlefield. Seeing that Fujin was about to cut him again, Orochimaru hurriedly ordered the two Hokage. Hurry up, kill her. Hashirama and Tobirama, who have just dealt with the bone clones, and were now trying to break the iron sand shell that locked Kurenai inside it, cast their sluggish eyes on Fujin behind Orochimaru. Already defeated my bone clones. Fujin sighed. He gave up cutting Orochimaru and immediately used body flicker jutsu. Whoosh. In the blink of an eye, Fujin broke through the speed of sound. With this fast speed, he appeared behind Tobirama and slashed with his bone blade. Under the sharpness of Fujin's bone blade, the Edo Tobirama was no different from butter under a hot knife. And with just a casual swipe, he was cut into two, without any resistance, and his body was divided into two parts, the upper and lower half. Fujin wanted to take this opportunity to temporarily paralyze Tobirama and put a seal on him that would at least restrict his movements, even if it won't release the reanimation. So he started to print the hand signs, but before he could finish, several vines grew out of the ground, and after entangling around his ankle, they yanked him away. Being thrown into the air, Fujin's expression remained unchanged, and without even a need to glacé at the vines wrapped around his ankles, Fujin transferred chakra towards his tarsus bones, out of which several bone blades protruded out and immediately cut off the vines entangling around him. After dealing with the vines, the bone blade retracted backward. Then a spear of bone elongated on top of which Fujin landed to stop his fall. Now standing on top of the bone spear, Fujin with his left hand on his waist, a bone sword protruding out of the palm of his right hand, stared at Orochimaru underneath with an indifferent expression. Orochimaru's face was gloomy. His eyes flickered as if he was thinking something, while Hashirama and the recovered Tobirama were protecting him from the two sides. Because a hole was opened in the iron sand shell by Hashirama some time ago, therefore Kurenai was able to look outside at Fujin and Orochimaru confronting each other. Moreover, this time because of no obstruction of hair, she was also able to note his appearance. Staring intently at Fujin standing on top of the giant bone spear, Kurenai murmured in a daze. So, this is his true appearance. Immediately afterward, her attention was attracted by the white eyes in the clone. So, his eyes are really Byakugan. The first time I noticed his Byakugan, I thought I was mistaken and it was my hallucination. But now it seems that he truly has Byakugan. Because the Umbu captain, Hyuga Kuroto, is a member of the Hyuga clan. Therefore, Kurenai is no stranger to the Kekkai Genkai of the Hyuga clan. This is why she recognized those eyes. And he has an uncanny resemblance to Kuroto-kun. But, while thinking so, Kurenai looked at the forehead of Fujin and thought, unlike Kuroto-kun, he doesn't have the caged bird cursed mark on his forehead. Instead, he has the symbols of the Kagaya clan along with those horns. Is he from the main branch family, with some kind of connection with the Kagaya clan? Muttered Kurenai with a confused expression. Unlike Orochimaru, Kurenai didn't really think of Chimera Jutsu being the cause of Fujin possessing 3 Kekkai Genkai. She doesn't know about Typhoon Release. Instead, she thought that perhaps Fujin is from the main branch family, and either one of his parents was from the Kagaya clan. And similar to Orochimaru, Kurenai did not think that Fujin is Hyuga Kuroto. The reason is very simple. Hyuga clan is an ancient clan and practices internal marriages to prevent the outflow of their Kekkai Genkai. So it wouldn't be too strange if a few members of the Hyuga clan were to have a slightly similar appearance. While Kurenai was thinking about various things, the battlefield had come to silence, and a breeze blew by, swaying the leaves and dust. Both Fujin and Orochimaru were in a silent confrontation, but neither of the two made his move, and both of them were waiting for the other party to take the initiative. Undoubtedly, now that the fight has reached this point, Orochimaru had to admit that he is not an opponent of Fujin. Orochimaru no longer has any interest in continuing this fight. After all, he has no personal conflict with Amatsukami, nor does he want to do anything with Amatsukami, and he is not stupid enough to provoke Amatsukami, while he is already being relentlessly pursued by the Akatsuki organization. But the opponent's speed is too fast, and all the moves are sharp and concise, whether it is ninjutsu, taijutsu, or kinjutsu. There are no flaws for Orochimaru to exploit at all. When coupled with Byakugan, fooling him is also a very difficult task, as everything can be seen through, so even a bit of negligence could lead to death. So even if Orochimaru wants to retreat, he needs to think deeply and plan out how to escape safely. Otherwise, even retreat might become impossible, and only death would be the end of this fight. While thinking of many ideas, Orochimaru's vertical slit, I inadvertently glanced at Kurenai inside the iron sand shell. Then he glanced at Tobirama standing near him and suddenly had an idea in his heart. Maybe I can use that. As soon as the plan was formed, Orochimaru smirked and licked his lips, then slowly lifted his hands and pressed them on the backs of Edo Hashirama and Edo Tobirama. Immediately after that, both Hashirama and Tobirama simultaneously weaved hand signs and launched their ninjutsu. Wood release, Hobi technique. Water release, water colliding wave. Duk 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 duk. Amidst the sound of wood piles closing a protective wooden dome with the dragon's face was formed around Orochimaru and protecting him inside. At the same time, under Tobirama's control, A turbulent wave appeared out of the ground and instantly flooded the entire tree and bone forest. With the battlefield submerged in water, Hashirama instantly dived into the water and quickly swam towards the iron sand shell protecting Kurenai. Of course, the iron sand shell was also filled with water. And Hashirama went underwater just like a fish. He traveled close to the iron cage in less than a second. Since Fujin was standing on top of the bone spear, so he was obviously unaffected by Tobarama's jutsu, but seeing Hashirama rushing towards Kurenai, so obviously he couldn't sit back and watch him kill Kurenai. Therefore, Fujin merged into the bone spear he was standing on currently, then appeared out of the bone spear near the iron sand shell, and immediately reached out his hand to grab Kurenai. The surface of iron sand shell was touched by and under Fujin's control. The hole that has opened in the iron cage previously expanded to the size that allowed one person to pass through. Because of being totally submerged inside the water, the iron sand shell was totally filled with water. So Kurenai, who was still not in a state to be able to do anything despite all the struggle, and was already suffocating, and it seems that it was very difficult for her to hold on her breath any longer. Therefore, as soon as she felt a hand on her shoulder, Kurenai seemed to have caught a life-saving straw and immediately hugged Fujin with all the strength she could muster. But suddenly vines grew out of the ground, and after wrapping around Kurenai's ankle, they continuously tried to pull her downward in order to drown her. Fujin raised his bone blade to cut the vines, but before he could, Hashirama also rushed out of the water and used wood cutting to kill Fujin. While trying to bring Kurenai out of the water, as she was continuously being pulled downward by the vines, Fujin parried Hashirama's attacks with his other hand. And to be honest, Fujin was a little overwhelmed here. One side Kurenai was being drowned, and on the other side, Hashirama was trying to kill him. Annoyed, Fujin kicked Hashirama away with all his strength, and then immediately elongated the bone sword to chop off all the vines trying to drown Kurenai and pulled her out of the water. Just as Kurenai was pulled out of the water by Fujin, Hashirama again rushed towards Fujin, and while entangling him in combat, Hashirama used a small time window to throw a dozen kunai towards Kurenai. Whyish, 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 whyish. Fujin of course waved his bone sword to cut those kunai, but because Hashirama was also continuously entangling him, therefore, he missed 3 kunai that soon reached close to Kurenai. However, he wasn't much worried, because based on their trajectories, they wouldn't hurt Kurenai. But before Fujin could breathe a sigh of relief, with a white flash, Tobarama appeared in front of Kurenai and held one of the 3 kunai that was traveling towards Kurenai, and without wasting even an instant, he immediately slashed the kunai across Kurenai's right shoulder to the chest, causing blood to splash. Fujin's heart sank. Of course. Flying Raijin. How could I have forgotten? Damn it. Because the kunai was thrown by Hashirama and not Tobarama, therefore Fujin was a bit unprepared for the Flying Raijin jutsu, and the opponent used this opportunity. Just as Fujin cut Tobarama, Tobarama's body turned into countless exploding tags. Oh no, even mutually multiplying explosive tags. This time, even Fujin was really panicked. As soon as the sneak attack on Kurenai succeeded, Tobarama did not wait and immediately used mutually multiplying explosive tags. Even Fujin does not guarantee that he can remain unharmed in the face of this jutsu if he were to face this jutsu, although Fujin is not worried about himself, because he can just merge inside a bone spear and emerge a long distance away from the area of the explosion. However, this option is not possible for Kurenai, so Fujin had to find a way to protect Kurenai, else even her bones will not be left, and all this fight would have been for nothing. So he immediately gave up all the entanglement with Hashirama, then immediately hugged the nearly unconscious Kurenai and protruded diamond-hard bones from his body to form a protective dome over him and Kurenai. But he didn't stop there and immediately controlled all the iron sand in the surroundings to form an incredibly thick layer of iron sand as a protection over the dome made of bone. And this was still not the end, as a towering tornado was summoned by Fujin in order to lessen the impact of the explosions. Before he was finished doing all this, the explosions have already started. Boom 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 For the next 5 minutes, the explosion caused by Tobirama's mutually multiplying explosive tags continued, which shook the whole forest. When the explosion stopped and the dust cleared away, a deep pit was revealed, and at the center of the deep pit, a white sphere with hundreds of cracks on the surface came to view. Seconds after, the white sphere that was filled with hundreds of cracks also turned into dust and fell apart to reveal the figures of 2 people. Fujin looked at his surroundings to find that except for himself, Kurenai, who is somehow clinging to life, everything else in the surrounding forest has completely disappeared. Thank goodness I was far away from the shrine, otherwise who knew what would have happened there. Side Fujin then searched for the presence of Orochimaru and the two Hokage. With his Byakugan, it didn't take long for Fujin to capture the figure of Orochimaru running away in panic, but even if he did find Orochimaru, Fujin did not choose to pursue him, because he has already noticed that when Tobirama sneak attacked Kurenai, he also made sure to leave a flying Raijin marking on Kurenai's chest. If Fujin were to pursue Orochimaru at this time, then Tobirama, who has also recovered back because of being an Edo Tensei, can simply use the flying Raijin jutsu to teleport near Kurenai and kill her instantly, therefore, unless the flying Raijin marking is removed from Kurenai's chest, or Fujin doesn't care about Kurenai's life and death. Fujin cannot go after Orochimaru. On the other side, Orochimaru, who was fleeing in panic, looked back at the battlefield several times, and after repeatedly confirming that Fujin did not choose to pursue, Orochimaru finally heaved a long sigh of relief. This time I was unlucky to encounter a monster like him. Being alive is already very good, I just need to get out of here. As for the sword of Totsuka, I will think about it later, muttered Orochimaru, and further increased his speed to get out of here as fast as he can, without care about dignity or pride. After all, Orochimaru values his life more than his dignity or pride. As long as he is alive, all truths can be uncovered and everything can be researched, so life is much more important than anything. This is also the reason why, earlier as soon as Orochimaru noticed that even under such a deadly attack as infinite explosions caused by mutually multiplying explosive tags, Fujin was not dead, so he had already started to flee in panic. Are you kidding? Even the explosions caused by Naidame Hokage's mutually multiplying explosive tags cannot kill him. Orochimaru can hardly imagine what jutsu will be capable of killing Fujin. It must not be forgotten that in terms of danger level, the infinite explosions caused by the mutually multiplying explosive tags somewhat match the danger level of Tsuchikage's dust release, and Naide Mizukage's steam and danger tyranny, and yet it couldn't kill Fujin. So what can kill Fujin? Although Orochimaru is curious to find out, however, he is not an idiot and has restrained his curiosity. Because curiosity often kills the cat, and he is not a cat, he is a snake. And snakes are more cautious than anyone, therefore, Orochimaru cares more about his life than finding out what can kill Fujin, for now at least. After making sure that Orochimaru was really gone, Fujin turned his attention toward Kurenai. Seeing Kurenai's state, Fujin's eyes condensed, and he looked at Kurenai's injuries with his Byakugan to see if she will live or not. After noting all the damage to her body, Fujin breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she can live. At this time, Kurenai had already passed out due to excessive blood loss. Her chest was stained with blood, moreover. There is a deep cut from her shoulder to her right breast. There are several fractures in her body, including the ribs, hips, and ankle. Additionally, she seems to be having a very high fever. There is poison in her circulatory system, and even her chakra is sealed. And finally, her clothes are also torn into fragments, resulting in her private body parts are also pretty much exposed. It wouldn't be wrong to say that Kurenai's current condition is really bad, but none of these injuries are immediately fatal, not even the deep cut caused by Naidame Hokage. Because the purpose of Tobirama's sneak attack on Kurenai was to hold on to Fujin and create an opportunity for Orochimaru to escape. Therefore, he made sure to avoid all her vital organs, including the brain, throat, heart, lungs, etc., and only inflicted a long and deep wound on her chest that would cause blood loss, but will not immediately endanger her life. Of course, if Fujin does not provide immediate medical treatment to Kurenai, she will die without a doubt, so he had no choice but to treat her. Fujin, of course, has the option of using Karen for this purpose, as biting Karen can easily heal all of Kurenai's injuries. But he decided not to. He didn't want to bring out Karen in front of Kurenai. Although Kurenai is somewhat important, her value is not as high as Karen, who is extremely important, detrimental to Kuroto's plan in the grand scheme of things, and by no means does he want to bring any sort of attention on Karen. So, Kurenai will have to make do with the treatment Fujin will provide her. Although Fujin is not a medical nin and does not know much about medical ninjutsu, however, he has a lot of knowledge of the human body, so he is capable of giving standard medical treatment. Additionally, the yang chakra of this clone body is also very high, so when the yang chakra is transferred to others, it can help in mending wounds, especially the fractures in bones. Therefore, Fujin is confident in saving Kurenai's life. Since the situation was urgent, Fujin only used a simple earth release jutsu to lift a rock above and placed unconscious Kurenai on it. Then he removed all her clothes. They were torn apart, wet, and soaked in blood anyways, so they were not doing their job. With Kurenai now lying on the rock without any clothes, Fujin focused his attention on the deep cut on her breast and thought about how to stop the blood flow. At the same time, stitch the cut without damaging them too much. After all, if this isn't done properly, her mammary glands would be damaged, and we all know what that would mean. Understanding this, firstly Fujin wiped off the blood, then washed her wound to clear away the germs and dead cells. After doing so, he poured an antiseptic agent on the wound. After the basic forensic tasks were completed, Fujin placed his right hand above the wound and started to slowly pour yang chakra on it, to start the healing effect. Under the stimulation of therapeutic yang chakra, a healing effect appeared and steam started to rise from the wound. Of course, the wound wouldn't be healed completely, only bleeding will stop, and that too temporarily. When the bleeding was temporarily stopped, Fujin immediately plucked out a strand of his hair, and after covering it in a thin layer of chakra Fujin, used it to carefully stitch the wound. Unfortunately, it will leave a scar, muttered Fujin, realizing that this is because he is not a professional medical nin, so his treatment will definitely leave a scar. I think she wouldn't mind a scar, after all. It's just a scar, it's better than dying, right? Nodding to himself, Fujin then focused his attention on the fractures. Since Fujin himself is capable of manipulating osteoblasts and osteoclasts, because of his Shikatsumiyaku Kekkei Genkai, therefore, mending fractures is not that big of a deal for him, however. That is only the case for his own fractures. Treating fractures in others' bodies is not such an easy task, and it will consume a lot of chakra. Since I have already started to treat her injuries, so I might as well take care of those fractures, was the thought in his mind as he put both of his hands over the fractured part of the ribs, and started to carefully inject his chakra inside her body, and then stimulated the broken ribs to automatically mend themselves, and did the same with the ankle fracture. After the ribs came her hips. For mending the hip bone, he turned her over, made her lay on her stomach with her back facing him, then did the same as previous two cases, placed his hands on her hips and poured his chakra inside in order to mend the hip bone fracture. Phew, that took more out of me than the entire fight with Orochimaru. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, Fujin then turned over Kurenai and lay her on her back, and pondered over how to extract poison out of her body. While Fujin was busy curing Kurenai, the remaining bone forest that wasn't yet destroyed by the fight gradually shattered into white powder because of having lost the chakra support. The white calcium powder was then blown in the air by the cold winds and was all over the sky. Attracted by this scene, Fujin looked up into the sky. Puff. But suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his chest along with a paralyzing sensation in the body, and the very next moment he coughed out a mouthful of blood. Cough, cough, puff. Because there was no warning before, so Fujin was sort of unprepared. As a result, a mouthful of blood splashed on Kurenai's face, making her face muddled again. The cold winds of the night were already causing Kurenai's unconscious body to shiver, and now that warm blood splashed on Kurenai's face, she suddenly regained consciousness. As soon as Kurenai regained consciousness, the first thing she saw was Fujin covering his mouth and intently staring at her. Then feeling the cold surface under her, and the cold sensation of the chilly night winds on her skin made Kurenai feel that something was wrong. She tried to confirm it, and soon saw her bare shoulders, exposed breasts as well as her bottom part. Realized that she wasn't wearing anything on her body, like anything, even her underwear. And feeling the gaze of Fujin on her, Kurenai immediately felt ashamed for being completely exposed. She wanted to exclaim but was too weak to do so, and had only one though going on in her mind. It's a nightmare. Orochimaru must have given me some kind of hallucinating drug that's making me have all kinds of weird nightmares. Yes, that's the only explanation. So, I am still in a dream, and this is not real at all. She felt that she was having a horrible nightmare, so, without mentioning anything, she fainted again. Why did she faint again? Fujin was confused as he saw the whole process of Kurenai regaining her consciousness, and then immediately fainting back without even saying a single word. He wiped away the blood from the corners of his mouth, and then also cleaned the splashed blood from Kurenai's face. After doing so, he touched Kurenai's forehead and muttered in a wondering tone, "The body is still burning because of fever. Maybe it's because of a high fever that she lost consciousness again." This is the only explanation, otherwise, Fujin can't think of any other reason that would cause Kurenai to faint again. This is just unscientific. Not caring about it anymore, Fujin then paid attention to the flying Raijin marking that Naidame Hokage left on Kurenai's chest. While rubbing his chin thoughtfully, Fujin muttered, "The flying Raijin marking must be cleared. As long as the flying Raijin marking exists, Kurenai will always be in a dangerous situation. Orochimaru can send Naidame Hokage to kidnap and kill Kurenai anytime. Just treating her injuries is not enough. This flying Raijin marking has to be removed to ensure her safety." The coordinate of flying Raijin placed on Kurenai's chest is also a Fuinjutsu, and essentially, Fuinjutsu is just chakra. As long as a stronger chakra is used to erode the Fuinjutsu seals placed on Kurenai's chest, it should be possible to clear away the flying Raijin marking. But this kind of erosion will take a lot of time and chakra, along with deep concentration. Even with the high chakra reserves of Fujin, it would take more than an hour to erode. Moreover, during the eroding process, there should be no hindrance or disturbance, as even an instant of disturbance would require him to restart the process. This is also the reason flying Raijin is very dangerous. If the flying Raijin marking is placed on someone in the middle of a war, it would make the situation very passive. There would be no opportunity for the person to erode the marking, as aside from time and high chakra, extreme control is also required, which is not something one can dedicate while in the midst of combat. This is why Namake's Minato was extremely dangerous during the Third Great Shinobi War. There was simply no counter to him. Anyway, Fujin then started eroding the flying Raijin mark. In the blink of an eye, an hour passed. After a full hour of delicate chakra control, he finally managed to erode the flying Raijin mark. After doing so, Fujin wrapped a bandage around her chest to wrap the stitched area. Of course, he made sure to not tighten the bandages too much, else she would have a problem breathing. Next, Fujin removed his own kimono and made her wear it. With this, she shouldn't feel cold anymore. As for her fever and poisoning, if it was a simple fever and poisoning, I would have already treated her, but unfortunately, it's not. Kurenai needs to be conscious, so these two can be put on hold for now. And unsealing her chakra? Obviously, I wouldn't do that for now. Now that Kurenai's matter was dealt with, and he was sure that she would live, Fujin then stood up and focused his attention on the surroundings, especially in the direction of the shrine half a kilometer away. What the hell are Shursui and Itachi doing? There was such an intense battle going on outside, yet they didn't even notice it. And now that I think about it, even when I looked inside the shrine with my Byakugan, I didn't sense either of their chakra. So does that mean they have yet to arrive here? Fujin muttered in a doubtful tone. But he quickly denied this possibility, because in the message he received from Itachi's clone in Konoha, it was specifically stated that they have already arrived at the site, so why are they not here? Is it possible that they had an accident? Fujin was indeed a bit worried, and walked towards the shrine to find out what was it that Shursui and Itachi wanted to show to him. As Fujin walked towards the shrine, he was followed by an iron sand flying carpet on which an unconscious Kurenai was laid. Arriving at the shrine, Fujin looked around and soon noticed several cat decorations around along with several scriptures, which clearly stated that this shrine was dedicated to cats. And at the worship ground, the statues of two cats, one black and one white cat, could be seen. And what's more interesting is that they seem to have several human characteristics as well. They are called Nikomata, huh? Curious, Fujin walked forward and looked at the statues of the two Nikomata. Apparently, these two Nikomata also have names, Kuroka and Chiron. Fujin had a thoughtful look as he searched for other information about these two Nikomata. But sadly there was no other information around that would give him some insight, so Fujin had to give up and focus on finding Itachi and Shursui. Puff. Just as Fujin was preparing to search further, he again felt a paralyzing sensation in his body, coughed out a mouthful of blood, staggered his steps because of a sense of dizziness, and almost fell to the ground. Cough, cough, puff. At the same time, behind him, the iron sand carpet floating in the air also began to collapse. Fujin hurriedly leaned on a wall to maintain his balance, and controlled the iron sand to slowly put down the unconscious Kurenai. After taking a few deep breaths, Fujin sighed. Damn it! I did not expect that the pain and body paralyzation caused by hemopathy would be so strong. It seems that I can't use Shikatsumiyaku too much in the future. Else this clone would be ruined because of the curse of the Kagaya clan. From the time he had first vomited blood, Fujin knew this is because of the curse of the Kagaya clan. This wind clone A is really excellent, and precisely because of this, it is always under the threat of death due to the curse of the Kagaya clan. As far as the status of the curse had to be considered, then it is already more critical than Kimamaro's case. But no matter how bad the situation is, Fujin didn't care too much. After all, this situation was inadvertently linked with Shikatsumiyaku, and nothing Fujin would do change it, so it's better to not worry and put your attention on more important things. After wiping the blood from the corners of his mouth, Fujin separated a shadow clone to keep a watch over Kurenai, then searched for Shursui and Itachi. The previous battle with Orochimaru also affected the shrine, and the already dilapidated shrine was almost close to being destroyed, but there was one particular hidden chamber that was completely unaffected. With the help of his Byakugan, Fujin quickly located the hidden underground tomb, but there was no grave in the tomb, and only a giant stone sculpture in the form of a giant gourd. But there was no entry to the tomb. The walls of the chamber were indestructible, and no matter how much Fujin tried, he was unable to break those walls. How hard his own bones are. Fujin knows full well, if anything, the toughness of Fujin's bones is even comparable to the likes of Orochimaru's Kusanagi blade and Sarutobi Hiruzen's adamantine staff. Enma, yet he was unable to slice through the walls leading to that tomb. This feat alone indicated the toughness of these walls. It was as if they were made out of the most solid material in the entire shinobi world. Strange. If the creator of these walls did not want anyone to break in, then why don't these walls block my Byakugan vision? I seem to be able to clearly see past these walls with the help of my Byakugan. Fujin thought with a doubtful expression, then focused his gaze on the giant gourd-shaped stone sculpture. Fujin could see that it was just an ordinary stone sculpture as there were no chakra fluctuations. But he would be an idiot if he believes that it was just an ordinary stone sculpture. After all, if it is just a stone sculpture, then why protect it with indestructible walls? So Fujin guessed that it must be somehow related to the sword of Totsuka, and this stone sculpture is exactly the clue that Shursui and Itachi found. And this guess of Fujin is fairly reasonable, as the sword of Totsuka also has the shape of a gourd. But if that's the case, then where are Shursui and Itachi? Fujin muttered in doubt, then thought, could their disappearance be related to some form of space-time jutsu? Or are both Shursui and Itachi sucked inside the sword of Totsuka to undergo some sort of trial? After all, it's a common anime trope for the predecessors to leave behind some kind of trial, and only the person who would complete that trial will become a worthy successor of their power. Therefore, Fujin also thinks that this might really be the case here and decided to wait. The night passed slowly, and soon it was already breaking dawn. Under the warm light of the early morning, Kurenai, who has been unconscious for the whole night, woke up. She looked around and found that she was lying on a bed made up of stone, and the member of Amatsukami, Fujin, who had saved her from Orochimaru, was sitting not too far away and was playing with some fist-sized spheres of fire. As if remembering something, she looked down and noticed that she was wearing an unfamiliar kimono. No, please no. She was really panicked and immediately opened the strap of the kimono to look underneath. No. Kurenai exclaimed, as her worst fear came true. There was nothing underneath the kimono, no underwear. Only a bandage that covered half of her breasts and right shoulder. Kurenai's exclaim attracted Fujin's attention. He looked over and noticed that Kurenai was awakened. He immediately extinguished the scorch orbs, got up, and while walking over he asked casually, well, you were asleep for several hours. I suppose it's not too strange considering your injuries. Anyway, how do you feel? Instead of answering Fujin's question or being grateful to him, Kurenai looked at Fujin as if she was looking at a beast and questioned in anger, what happened to my clothes? And this kimono? You put it on me, right? Then does that mean it wasn't a dream and you saw everything? Huh. Fujin was speechless, and only now did he find this problem. Because he is quite used to seeing a female naked body while controlling the Tsukihai clone, therefore, he didn't really feel anything looking at her, and didn't even realize that it would make Kurenai embarrassed. Now what should I say to her? Fujin was now in a precarious situation. Although it was a matter of urgency to give her immediate treatment in order to save her life, it was ultimately a violation of Kurenai's privacy. Not to mention he kept her nude for hours. Fujin wanted to explain to her, but did not know how to explain. So after racking his brain, he finally decided that he should first compliment her in order to ease the atmosphere a bit, then slowly tell her that it was necessary. Nodding to himself at how genius he is, Fujin said to Kurenai with a pleasant smile, I must say, you are very well developed at just the right places.